braving the elements on your way up, as I know the visibility was not good with the rain. My board report for June, and there's different things going on in a school in June than there is other times of the year, but the board report is more about, I thought, people ask quite often, what do you have going on? What do you do there in the summertime? Those kinds of things. And I think people are surprised sometimes at the amount of activity that takes place in the school during the non-school year part of the year. So I thought I'd list a few of those off and embellish on any of those you might like me to elaborate on. But, I want to start out by saying that our summer or our June really started with graduation, the end of school. And graduation is always it's just a really neat event. We graduated 20 seniors in Big Fork, which is a little different than the other high school in our district. But I really look forward to our graduation ceremonies. Siri Prado and Kindy Porter are usually the masterminds behind it. Our senior advisors, Elliot Wilson and Stu Ostendorf, also take a hand in that, as well as our custodians and stuff. But our ceremonies are usually quite personable because we are so small. We're able to do that where you wouldn't be able to in other places. And they're a lot of fun, and it's really nice to be able to recognize those 20 seniors reaching that milestone. Board members Mark Schroeder and Tom Gustafson were there along with Superintendent Gross to participate in the graduation. Mr. Marty and his wife were in attendance as well. And, always nice to have, any members that are able to make it. And those are tough times to be able to make everything. So we get that, but it was very appreciated to see you there as well. So that was graduation, and the building didn't get too warm too quickly, so that was kind of nice. Yeah. And as far as summer programming goes, we've got a number of things taking place right now. We've got Elementary Summer Learning Academy taking place. 4-H Club complements that. So Learning Academy takes place in the morning, 4-H Club in the afternoon, so that if students want to attend both and kind of make that an all-day thing, if families want to be involved in both, they can. We have some early childhood special education services taking place here at the building. We have high school credit recovery. They were actually in this room most of today. That would be akin to what the ALC has going on, but when we're able to offer that here, it makes it more accessible for our high school students, just like Summer Learning Academy, 4-H Club. Our North Holmes person that works in our building also runs a little day camp and uses the school as kind of a base for that. And so instead of, again, transportation issues, kids that want to attend the North Holmes camp down in the Grand Rapids area, they can go to the North Holmes camp. That's a pretty long distance for families to figure out that. So Ann Coble is our North Holmes person, and she runs one right out of here, and they'll do different day trips, different places. They'll be right here, but she'll do activities with them also. We've had volleyball camps and basketball camps going on. A lot of maintenance and cleaning, not only our own maintenance staff and our own custodial staff, they've been busy, but as you can see in some of the hallways, but we've had contractors in and out as well. Jamar was here today working on some different things. We've actually had some community meetings as well. I walked into the Edge last week. I think one of their committees was meeting in the gallery. We had a Tasca County Soil and Water meeting with the group here late last week as well. Been a little bit of work, a little prep work on the solar array that the district is working on out here. They were doing some soil samples last week, so there's been a little bit of prep work on that as well. And then internally, there's a lot of planning because things get so busy during the school year. The more upfront planning we can do during the summer, the better off we are, the more we have on the calendar. I was sending emails today to some of my leadership team members, some other members as well. And thankfully they're pretty diligent about checking emails and getting back to me with with different things, but it's trying to get all of those meetings scheduled, not only August meetings and trainings, but leadership team meetings, agendas set up, crisis team meetings, agendas set up, curricular planning meetings, all of those kinds of things. So again, the more we have in place, the more we're able to respond and be able to keep things on the right track as things get busier and busier throughout the school year. So some of the things that are taking place kind of during the summer behind closed doors and behind the scenes, but it's a lot of planning and preparation. And it's nice to see the kids still coming in and out of the building. Questions?
Can you say a little bit, thank you. Can you say a bit more about the solar panels, where we're at in that process and when's going to be operational?
I don't have a timeline on it, David. It's a great question. We started out, I started getting information on it probably late last summer, early fall. And, as you were as well. And there was some legislation a while back where it was solar for schools. And it's basically a way to create a partnership, work with companies that will specialize in these kinds of things. And it's done one of two ways. Either you have enough green area like we do in Big Fork out here, kind of right adjacent to the Edge Center, or it's going on, you can put those panels on roofs, but the roofs have to have a certain rating. You have to have a certain amount of square footage. Well, if you look at a lot of our buildings in the district, they're multi-tiered, right? So you're not going to have a lot. Plus, there's different. You have to meet different code styles, and there's different ratings, especially for northern Minnesota when you have to have that snow load bearing as well. So when the powers that be or the experts were looking at our district, one of the few areas that we really could make work is this area with Big Fork. It would go in. It would certainly provide power for the school. Any power not being used then is sold back onto the grid, so it becomes a revenue offsetter, and eventually, once it's paid off, a revenue creator. And it comes with what the experts were telling me from the companies last fall when they were here. They were telling us that it comes with some really nice curricular pieces too. So our teachers will be able to do some instructional things. There'd be some instructional value to having it here. There's a website they can get on it. They can see the power being generated. They can see how much is being used. They can see how much is being sold back onto the grid, those kinds of things. So I think there's some really neat pieces to it. Timeline wise, I think we got waylaid a little bit because it sounded last fall like things were going to move pretty quickly, and then things slowed down and things got a little bit murky. We weren't sure if that funding was going to be there for some reason. And Matt probably has more details on that. Superintendent Gross probably does. But there were some things there. And now this spring we've had, somebody from a company coming and checking the area out to see what it was, is it what it looks like on paper, those kinds of things. Making sure it's going to work for their needs, and then soil sampling last week. So it's exciting to see what's going to come next there.
My understanding is that we are required to have a curricular element tied in with that.
That is, yes, that's part of the agreement.
And when will that begin?
I don't know when the website would be operational or when we would be able to track things, not probably until they're operational.
Okay.
I would think that as it's my own thoughts, and I'm not going by anything more than that, my own thoughts would be there's going to be learning opportunity while this thing is being constructed, not only from the solar point of it, but even the construction point of view. And I think capitalizing on those opportunities and making the most of them is really beneficial. And just an example, that would be, you're all familiar with the Edge Storage Center that Mr. Ostendorf's classes built. They were also the ones doing the materials lists, getting estimates on those materials, going over to City Hall and getting the building permit. It's not just the construction, but it's those preparatory things that maybe things people don't think about as much. And so I would see it the same as this. The more we can do educationally as it's being built, the more understanding they're going to have as we put it into action.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions?
I guess I'd just like to comment because I had some real concerns about solar, right? I'm one of those who feels we should be focusing on school and not we're not a power company, excuse the language, right? And I was real hesitant about it. But one of the things that did help me with this and make me feel differently about it is a curriculum. When we look at power nowadays, the issue with solar power is the fact that, you only get power when the sun's shining, right? Which is not when we need power. That's, L&M can't close their doors because the sun's not shining, right? And this place can't close its doors because the sun's not shining. And when I look at it, there's things out there that are very costly right now, and that's kind of the overall problem with it, right? But you know what? Who's going to solve it are these kids, and they need to understand that. And so one of my things that I want to make sure is that we're being really good about the curriculum, and there's shortfalls for it, and we want to be honest with them and let them work towards that solution, because they're going to be the ones to make those solutions for us in the future.
Tom, that's a great point. And just, I'll just add that, we do a science fair every year. And some of you were up for that, this past spring. In fact, Tom, I think you were here judging, weren't you?
Yeah.
And I wasn't able to be here that day. I was ill. But this year we called it a STEM symposium and branched out more than just science. And we were looking for science and math connections. And our instructors did a great job of connecting those and building a rubric that was going to build all of that in. And a main focus of that was types of energy. And each student had to present on that. Well, we had some students that weren't able to be here for that actual evening, and so I filled in, and one of our students, and he did an excellent job, presented to the principal, and he was presenting on 3 different types of energy, and was comparing tidal energy to 2 other kinds of energy. And he had done some really neat research on basically efficiencies of it. And one of the things he was talking about was tidal energy was actually more efficient than solar energy. And I can't remember the other one that he was using right off the top of my head. But the upfront investment cost was far too much to ever make tidal energy cost effective and make it worth it. But to your point, these kids, they know how to dig in, and they know how to compare, and they get good guidance from their instructors. And this component could definitely help some of that.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else?
Thanks, Ken.
Again, appreciate you being here.
Yeah.
Thanks.
At this point, we're going to adjourn the workshop, and we'll come back into session at 6:30 for the main meeting.
He's spinning his, look at, he's spinning.
Hey, Matt,
See your hand, they can see.
You got one.
we all got him.
Great.
Julie's gonna rue the day.
Spinning it really hard and fast because it's still, his is still, that brand new one is making that noise and mine is not. Like, I don't
Yeah, this
So
one's not gonna stay on the bat. The only thing better than one of these pens is two of these pens. So
There you go. It's the little things.
It really is. I mean,
absolutely it is.
Keeps you going in your day.
Yep.
I get it.
Did you see the question? I don't know who posted, and it wasn't this, it was just like, it looked like the Star Trek logo on Facebook. And we had people, what is
Yeah.
this? It's like, oh,
Yes,
I
I
kept
did.
trying to explain something. I was like, okay.
well,
I thought you were trying.
Here, you know me.
Up and to the right compass. It's funny because when I first came
It's Amanda Lampa, I think that posted
Yeah.
it, wasn't it?
She was one that asking about it. She's
Yeah.
like, hey, what is this? I said, "Well, it's
caught
ours."
up with my principles and other people. Like, that's what we want.
another minute. Yeah.
Senate Finance put out their tax bill on the big beautiful bill. We'll see. Yeah. I mean, because I don't know, that was my, I was kind of wondering, I'll ask Carol later if we have any funding tied to the feds on energy taxes, because if that's the case, it's not far enough. It'd be clawed back.
Yeah, and I did, like. You might should do that this morning. Yeah. Small schools.
Ready, Julie? We'll call the school board meeting to order. Please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved
Second.
by Dave, second by Melissa. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Agenda is approved. Next item on the agenda, we actually moved up into the workshop, so thanks, Ken, for that update. Next item on the agenda, approve the minutes of the June 2nd, 2025 regular meeting. Do I have a motion?
So move, David.
Moved by David,
Second.
second by Dave. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Minutes of the June 2nd meeting are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the May 2025 claims. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Dave. Second.
Second.
Second by Melissa. Discussion. Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The May 2025 claims are approved. Next item on the agenda is to approve the consent agenda. Reminder, these are routine staff-related issues that do not require discussion. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda? Moved by Melissa. Do I have a second?
Second, David.
Second by David. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Consent agenda passes. Next agenda item, approve the 2025-26 and the 2027-28 superintendent contract. We have negotiated a tentative agreement with Superintendent Gross. Kind of some of the highlights of the negotiations: no salary increase for the years 25-26 and 26-27 contract years. The salary for the 2027-28 salary will be negotiated in the spring of 2027. Two MOUs, the earned, safe, and sick time and the HSA amounts, which were previously MOUs, have been moved into the contract now in alignment with the other contracts within the district. And of course, the fourth one, Juneteenth holiday, has been added to almost all of our contracts now. So do I have a motion to approve superintendent's tentative agreement?
So moved.
Moved by Melissa. Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I do want to record disappointment. We did an evaluation of the superintendent, and it was a very, very positive evaluation. And salary is not reflecting that. I get it. I understand. But I want to register disappointment with that.
Other comments or discussion?
I would just kind of echo what David was saying, and just with our gratitude and thanks for the job that you continue to do, Matt, and a situation where money is tight, understanding that you're kind of taking one for the team. I know you're a very well-respected superintendent in our state, and I will go on record as saying as I believe that we're lucky to have you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent's contract is approved. Next item on the agenda, approve the FY26 original budgets. Kara.
Good evening. There is a document in the minutes. It's lengthy. So I'm just going to do an abbreviation of that tonight in a PowerPoint. Starting with why we do this, where we're going, what our North Star is with this. We have our strategic directions, and The one I own is stewardship of resources. We do have goals in that. The first one that we have, even before we did the strategic directions, we wanted to balance our budget, and we have been working towards that, and we have done that. Part of doing that is also getting our fund balance to where our policy says. It's no good to have a policy if we're going to ignore it, if we're not going to abide by it. So we've been working towards that. We've also been working to build community awareness. Before the referendum, lots of meetings with community and public. After the referendum failed, Matt continues to do these meetings with the public. So we're working towards those directions. And the evidence of the progress on that is we have balanced our budget 23, 24, and now the year we're in 25. So, we are working towards those. We have, the fund balance policy. We are in compliance for the first time in a while. So that is great. We have sold one of our old goals was to get rid of our excess properties. We've gotten rid of all of them except for one that's landlocked. So still out there. We've also reduced our leases. We have moved the ALC into the desk. We've got rid of that lease payment. Early childhood, we were renting from the IRC. We've gotten rid of that. Up at Murphy, we have people there, but Matt was very strategic and wrote into that lease agreement or that sale of that building that we would have 10 years of rent-free space in Kuteska. So we don't pay anything for that either. We've also, like I said, we have been meeting with the public. Matt has done a lot of that after the referendum and just educating them on where we are. Not always financially, just grades and, the great things our students are doing.
Yeah, one question real quick.
Yeah.
The excess property right now, there is no buildings on it.
No.
Correct? So there's really no operating maintenance
Nothing.
costs for us. It's-
Yes.
Basically equity.
Right.
I mean, why would you get rid of it?
We tried though.
I know,
Yeah, yeah.
I know we
It's a
did.
small
But I
part,
mean,
Yeah,
obviously,
yeah.
it changes how
Yeah.
critical it is, right?
Yeah,
It's not
yeah.
costing you money on a day-to-day basis.
The budget process is a long one. Back in December, the board met and we talked about the timelines, kind of what we were looking at, where we tentatively were. We met again in January, went over our assumptions. That was a long time ago, 6 months. Since then, in March, we have worked through staff reductions and non-renewals. The last April and May, we've had a lot of meetings to discuss what's happening with the budget. May 19th was the end of the legislative session, and we were supposed to have updates on where we would be financially. A lot of our, what we can do depends on the revenue that the legislature awards us. We didn't know that June 9th was the end of the special session. The special session didn't end until after June 9th, and today is June 16th. So a few of the things that were decided in that special session are not reflected in our budget. But none of them are major. There are some small ones, but just so you're aware. And working towards our fund balance, this is our savings. If not for this fund balance, we wouldn't be able to cover this next year's retiree benefits. We have built this fund balance up. We are able to cash flow this without borrowing in the next year, 2 years. So at the end of last year, we had 10.2% fund balance. The Department of Education measures this, the unassigned fund balance, to the unassigned expenditures. It's complicated to calculate, but that's their calculation. That's 13.57%. They use this as a measurement. If we were to ever get below negative 2.5%, if our fund balance dropped too low, we'd be in SOD, statutory operating debt. The state would review our expenses. They'd be watching us. We would have to get ourselves out of there. The average district's fund balance at the end of last year, ours was 13.57, was 23.9%. So anyone that thinks we're hoarding funds, we are not. We are significantly below the state average, but we're within our policy. And this is what our fund balances look like. We have worked our way out of our lowest spot where we struggled. Cash had to be moved around to make payroll payments. Our fund balance was lower than an average payroll. So I'm glad we're not in that position anymore. Of course, 25 and 26 are estimates. I'm really hoping 25 is flat. 26 will decrease, and we'll talk about that. And 100% of that is related to the retiree benefits. Enrollment is the biggest driver of our revenue, and our enrollment. I was very surprised when I pulled up 20 years of enrollment and looking at it, because if you look back 20 years ago, our enrollment was very similar to where it is today. And because it has decreased in the last 6 years, I thought it would have been higher more recently and that it would have just continued to decrease. It's not. So it's good to know that where we are is where we have been. The average of the 20 years is 3,858 average daily memberships. So that also surprised me. We are budgeting for 42 enrollments online in our online program. So of that 3,700, 42 are online enrollments. This is how it breaks out by grade. There was an increase in the voluntary pre-K in this past year, 2025. The state of Minnesota awarded the Grand Rapids area schools 58 VPK seats. Prior to that, the only VPK seats that we had in our entire district were up here in Big Fork. So, and that started in 2017, those VPK seats, voluntary pre-K. So this is the first year. Next year, again, we have 58 seats. I believe they're all filled. In the Grand Rapids area, we do have available seats in Big Fork to be filled. Our kindergarten class, we're again budgeting the lowest in the year shown. Right now, we have 214 kids enrolled in kindergarten. When I look at the trend of what we have enrolled at this time and what we have enrolled at the end of the next school year, 232 is what our trend shows over the last several years. So that's where we're setting it. It's low. I don't like it, but it is where we are right now. Over the last 10 years, this is what our revenues and expenses have looked like. And, we always talk that we had been deficit spending for several years. In 2020, it looks like we didn't deficit spend, but just a, note here, we had an operating loss of $112,000. We had a change in accounting principle, almost $200,000. So it looks like we're positive. We continued to have operating deficits, but the last 3 years we have had an operating surplus, and we will continue that in 2025. And in 2026, again, we would have an operating surplus if not for those retiree benefits. And I'm not blaming retirees at all. This is just fact. We will levy for those payments in the following years, but it can't match revenues and expenses. So we have to recognize this as a loss.
So it'll be a 1-year lag?
It will be a 1-year lag, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So the details of that play out like this. I know this is a lot to take in right now, but please go back and read the document that's in the minutes. It explains a lot of it. Our overall for next year, 2026, about a $2.6 million loss. As it stands, 3.8 million recorded as expenses for retiree benefits. We offset by the $1.2 million operating surplus that we are budgeting. So some of the details that go into our budget, some of the changes from the prior years, starting at the top, the other category, this encompasses a lot of different revenues. Those are going to basically be flat next year. Federal is down. You can see federal has had the largest swings, $6 million in fiscal year 24. This is all COVID, not all COVID money, but the biggest portion of this is COVID money. We'll be down to $2 million. It's a $4 million swing in a couple of years. We were able to use our COVID money to build up our fund balance. And I'm glad that we did. State aids up. We had the 2.74% increase in the basic formula. Our enrollment's going down, so we're not going to recognize that full amount. Special ed will be up. We have spent more in ADSES in our alternative delivery services program, and that is paid out in the year following the expense, just like special ed is. And that is paid at the same reimbursement rate as special ed. And so as the state increased the special ed cross subsidy, so has ADSES reimbursement. So that's good. We are seeing decreases in this last legislative session in library aid and student support aid. Those came at the very end, so those aren't reflected. I did estimate a decrease, but I didn't capture the entire decrease that we'll experience. Expenses, salary freeze. Salaries are almost flat from 25 to 26. So I am budgeted a salary freeze. That means people that have earned steps and lanes will receive those. And longevity, we did reduce some of our FTEs. That's offset by adding a literacy lead position that we needed according to the READ Act. We did add another position, and that Matt is evaluating where that will fit best in our budget. Benefits are up. Again, retiree benefits, we're budgeting those. Contracted services are pretty flat. We are, like I mentioned earlier, those VPK seats, when we receive that money, we get paid state aids, basic taxes. We get all the money that we earn on a regular kid for those. A portion of that will be passed on to Early Edge, who's educating those kids and running that program. So that is part of the contracted services. More kids, money is passed on. In the past, we haven't passed on the majority of that money. We're doing that for the upcoming year, and we are doing it in fiscal year 25. And then supplies, capital, and other will decrease slightly. We did purchase 4 buses this year and a truck. We did purchase $600,000 in curriculum. We are not purchasing that big amount of curriculum next year, and we're only budgeting for a couple buses next year. Salaries and benefits. When I looked at this, I thought that salaries and benefits would be a bigger portion of our budget, adding the retiree benefits onto it. But 83% of our budget will be salaries and benefits in the next year. And just a reminder, the state, we receive less money than the average district in the state of Minnesota. We spend less in 22, 23, and 24 than the average district in the state of Minnesota. All of this is going to change when we have to levy retiree benefits. Our story is going to change. Our expenses will go up. Our revenues will go up about $900 right now per ADM. So it's a lot to explain, but we know how we're spending money. It's just not going to go to the classroom. So it's just an addition to our story. And then all the other funds are listed in that document that you're approving the budget for tonight. Food service and community service, Polly Podpesker and Melanie Dubay do an awesome job budgeting for their programs. Debt service, this is basically on autopilot. I have to budget 105% of our principal and interest payments. And the state monitors that very closely. Our health insurance fund, we are trying to build up our fund balance there. That was also below statutory level. So we have been working to increase that, but our insurance premiums are only going up 6.5%, only 6.5%. We're excited about that, right? And we will hopefully have a surplus in our health insurance fund. And then the OPEB trust, that just spends that down to 0. Does anyone have any questions?
Thanks, Kara. Questions or discussion?
Couple that no one's gonna jump up. Sorry. Enrollment's online. When do we get an idea as to those numbers, right? We're budgeting, I think it was 42 or 44 or something like
Yep,
that.
42.
When do we expect students to?
We've already had kids enrolling. I
Okay.
think we're up to 10
Okay.
so far.
Okay.
We monitor this very closely. Weekly, we're Matt and I are getting reports as to our enrollment, and I see every single enrollment that comes into the district online or for online schools or regular.
And just based that, well, of course, we haven't done online before, but I mean, how do we feel about that? Does that give you a warm fuzzy? I would
Absolutely.
expect, okay, the 10, okay.
Yeah,
You expect
because-
a lot of last minute or type thing, or?
Yeah, it's 10 more kids
mean,
than we would have had.
I hear you there.
it's-
I mean,
yeah.
but, you know, I'm just trying to feel how we're.
Yeah.
How we adjust
I
for
mean-
that, when we adjust for that, or if we need to, right? I'm sorry, go ahead, Matt, I'm sorry.
Is that a tornado thing? Is everybody checking their phone right now?
Mine's a
Okay.
flash flood.
Okay.
My house is
Um,
actually in a bad spot.
I would love to, I'd love to have 43 right now so that, we could all be like, oh, okay. I don't feel bad about 10. I think we do, if you talk to people that have been in that enrollment or that are in that enrollment office, they'll tell you that August is really busy for them, July and August, as far as enrollments go. And I think that a little bit uniquely, and I'm not trying to paint too pretty of a picture, but I think the nature of that will be that we'll have kids enrolling in there through the middle of September, as they, a kid maybe that doesn't even enroll in school, and then it'll be an unorthodox timing and process for sure. And like you said, Tom, it's our first crack at it, so we'll see what happens.
Okay, appreciate that. The other thing I know, when we had a consultant talk to us about some potential options for OPEB that might help mitigate that somewhat. And feel free to correct me if I misunderstood or misinterpreted. I mean, the options we've looked at have really not necessarily are changing any benefits for our retirees, but just the way we handle it so that we can mitigate the losses on it, for lack of a better term, a little bit. Where are we at with that? And what is the opportunity to, when could we ever maybe see some potential savings from that? Is it something that we wouldn't even get an answer on that it'd take us a year to get an answer on that? Or is it something we could potentially maybe mid-year readjust budgets and, be seeing something from that? I guess just time frame or any feel for that potentially.
Yeah, so where we're at in the process right now, because like you said, our sort of our commitment all along and our obligation is to ensure that we are providing benefits that are as good or better than what employees have now, or retirees have now, I should say. And so there has to be some sort of a determination relative to that. And, that's not something that I get to determine, or Kara gets to determine, obviously, or the board even gets to determine. So right now we're sort of in the process of getting some feedback on how the options that we have considered as far as Medicare subsidized Medicare supplement plans, as far as how those options compare to the plan that our retirees are on now. And, that was one of the things, I think, in the meeting that we had. It was a great meeting, very well attended, but I think one of the things that is a little bit hard to kind of connect the dots on how this plan or these plans can be cost savings and provide benefits that are as good or better, and it's because they're subsidized by Medicare. So the first thing we're waiting on is some feedback on how the plans that we put forward compare to what we have our retirees on now. The second thing that's happening is one of the concerns raised by the employee group was, the plans that we've looked at so far have been Blue Cross Blue Shield. Our district has been with Health Partners for quite some time. We were with Blue Cross Blue Shield many years ago. And as you know, every 2 years, we're required to go out for bids. And ever since I've been here, I know that we've gotten bids from Blue Cross, Health Partners, people like Medicare, people like Preferred One. So we've gotten all those bids, but some of the retirees were like, we really like Health Partners, and it'd be great if we could stay with Health Partners. And so the second thing we're doing is seeing if Health Partners would meet the benefits and cost of the plans that we got proposed from Blue Cross. Their first swing at it didn't get there. So we're just trying to be responsive to the retirees that way. So that's kind of what we're waiting on. As far as timelines go, and this is where I get out over my skis, there are some timelines specific to Medicare enrollment that are later in the year. And so that's sort of like if we were going to get that's sort of like the timeline marker is the Medicare enrollment timeline later in the year. So if we can get to a place where we can feel comfortable about the comparison, get some feedback from some groups, there's a possibility we could be looking at, getting something done this school year, but we need a few markers to kind of fall into place. But that would be the goal as soon as we can, obviously, to get something going.
So what I heard is there might be some opportunity to mitigate that somewhat.
Yes. Yep.
Now,
We need to do something for sure. It's just a matter of how quickly can we move through that. And some of that has to do with, how quickly we can get feedback and opinions on the values of these plans. We're working quite a bit with admin on it. And they've been cooperative. They understand that there's value here, because from a theoretical standpoint on the district budget side, but also from a practical standpoint, many of our employees live inside of our district, and our employees are going to see the same property tax increases that anybody else will. So there's some real practical savings there with our actives.
Well, and I appreciate your bringing it up because I don't want to, just because it's a levy, we don't have to go to the voters. The voters feel it. Bottom line, right?
That's right.
So it's a realistic cost for them, and I don't want to ever forget that, I guess. Bottom line. That's all I had. Oh, I'm sorry. On the last slide, you had 1.19 million. I thought I saw for retirement. I thought it was a higher number. Did I see that wrong, or?
I don't know what is.
Because it's been around 3 or something.
Yeah.
wasn't
So
it,
the
that
one
we've
point, that's the,
I guess I
the-
misunderstood that, or what?
that's about what I'm estimating our trust balance will be at the end of fiscal
Oh,
year 25, and we'll
okay.
spend that down.
Okay.
Yep.
That helps. Thank you.
If I can, Mr. Chair, too, I just want to point out, and these are some of the things that having a skilled business manager will do. Kara sort of, even getting into this year, having projected the potential for this, had sort of been pre-planning for this so we could be in as good a spot as we could be, and by levying some coming into this year. So just want to recognize that, and I appreciate that, Kara, that you were thinking ahead like that, or trying to you know, we knew it was gonna run out at some point. You were trying to plan for that, so thank you.
I have two questions, if that's okay. And I'm gonna kind of piggyback on Tom a little bit. Have we, Matt, maybe this question for you, have we or do we intend to do any marketing regarding our online school, regarding that?
We haven't been taking a real, we haven't taken a real public approach to marketing that. And that's a decision that we may want to change at some point. Could be any time. You know, our approach has been really to focus on reaching out to, like, through direct communication to the people, students, parents that are district students enrolled elsewhere. So we've, you know, made personal phone calls and personal emails to those people. We haven't really communicated outside of that group. I have been in touch with our partner on it, and he suggested potentially another open house, and we did good turnout at our last one, and he suggested that we consider having another one. I think maybe a little bit later in the summer. You know, some, you know, in my experience, we have some parents that, you know, they're thinking about in April, they're thinking about things that are happening in October already. And then we have some parents that, you know, at the end of the school year, they're thinking about closing the school year out. And September 5th is the furthest thing from their mind. And so we have parents in both boats. So I think something a little bit later, but if it's something that we wanted to pursue a little more aggressively, we sure could. I'm running into more and more and more school districts that are doing what we're doing, especially in the metro and kind of the, I'd say, medium to larger size school districts. And I'd put ourselves like on the, I guess it depends, you know, in the mathematical averages, which number you use, mean, median, or mode. But, you know, if you look at those numerical averages, we're kind of, I'd say we're a small, on the small end of the medium scale. Lots of school districts doing what we're doing. And so I think there's opportunities for partnerships with other districts. Something that I'm seeing and hearing about more and more is tuition agreements between a district that has a program in place and other districts around them. So there's a different tuition amount that's paid, and that kind of serves as a win-win and creates the opportunity maybe for the, you know, the district that's sending the student to be motivated maybe a little bit more. So I'm kind of rambling here, but an example would be that if there was another district around here that had a student attending Infinity Online, there's not a lot of motivation for a district around here right now to say, hey, why don't you enroll in Grava instead? Well, if we had a tuition agreement with that school district, we'd be able to charge any tuition rate we wanted, really. And that could be a motivation for that school district to do the same thing that we're considering, where they have a student that they know is already going to be enrolling online. And instead of sending their money to Minnesota Virtual Academy or Cybertruck Academy, they're sending them to a neighboring school district. So rambling long answer, Melissa.
Okay, thanks. I'm just wondering, because I haven't heard much about it. So I'm thinking if we only have 10 people, I mean, once word gets out, well, you know, because 10 to me sounds actually pretty good for no marketing, really, of it.
Can I ask a follow-up question on that?
Yeah.
Matt, I think potentially marketing to get more numbers might be good, but I also am potentially in the camp of, this is our first year, and I don't know that we want to go so, you know, if it becomes too big, is it, you know, do we not learn into it? I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence.
There's a lot to learn. I'll say there's a lot to learn, and, you know, we're making decisions. We're making procedural decisions based on the best information we have and looking at what other districts have been doing. But I'll give it a specific example. So a question might be, well, how long can students have to change their mind? So if a student started face-to-face on September 5th, could they change their mind on September 8th? Or vice versa. If they started online, could they change their mind and go face-to-face on September 8th? Those are all questions that we have to answer and sort out. And we've had lots of discussions and kind of have some positions established. But some of those, I feel like to your point a little bit, Dave, we're going to figure out during this first year. The other thing we're going to figure out this first year is how much energy and time is required by the principals that have been assigned this extra duty. So Andy Forbort at Grand Rapids High School and Clayton Linder at West Rapids Elementary, they've taken on respective, grade levels that they're going to be supervising essentially in the program. So I know those two principals are very busy. Clayton's already splitting 2 schools and now this. And our high school is a building that has 550 kids per principal already. So those 2 positions are already busy. I think easing into it is okay, but I do think, if we can get into that, if we could hit 42, I'd feel okay about that, feel good about that.
Melissa, do you have another
Thanks.
question?
Yeah, just, I think more for the general public, but to kind of peg off some of the questions on OPEB, like who actually has decision-making capacity there on moving that to a different plan? Like who actually has the decision-making authority to do that?
If the benefits are the same or better, the board has the decision-making rights. So it would be similar to if we had in the bidding process, the Health Insurance Transparency Act bidding process we do every 2 years. If Blue Cross Blue Shield next time bid lower on the same insurance plan or equivalent insurance plan, and the board took that bid, we would be changing carriers. The board has the authority to do that as long as the aggregate value doesn't change. So that decision, assuming and kind of required that aggregate value stays the same, is the board's at that point.
Thanks.
Can I say one more thing?
Tom, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Again, I just feel strongly too that I had hesitancies about online. I think our state went through a big struggle with it, and we're still trying to recover from learning online, right? And I really want to say I feel strongly we need to keep our values on this too, not just chase a dollar to get another dollar. I appreciate the fact that we're doing this to help our budgets and things like that, but I want to make sure we're doing right by the students and that they're getting the quality education that they should get out of a Grand Rapids school that we would expect, and I hope we monitor that well.
I think that's a great point, Tom. I appreciate that. That was kind of the challenge when we started talking about it too, to how we even frame it. I think what's unique about, especially these 10 early enrollees, many of them have stories that sound like my student has anxiety and wasn't going to be able to attend school. And so this was an option for them that they wouldn't have otherwise had. So it's good that it's good that we have that option. And at the same time, like you said, Tom, I think, I don't think our goal is to build a school with 1,200 kids in it just to, solely as a budget solution. And I think that's what you're getting at. And I agree with that.
Mr. Chair?
David?
I want to express concern and dismay that we're looking at an unbalanced budget. We have been so diligent as a board. We've really taken it on the chin to get that, to force that budget into balance. And we're not. And I want to reiterate what I heard you say, and if I didn't hear it right, please correct me, but that we are doing that because of the OPEB situation, and that we can levy for those funds in the following year to backfill. So depending on how you look at it, it's we are approving a budget with a loss, but we are making it up the following year, and we have pretty strong assurances on that. Am I correct in understanding that?
Yeah, if not for the retiree payments to cover those, we would have a surplus.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Other discussion or questions?
Mr. Chair, Kara had the slide in there, and it's something that I talked to the, and as I've been out in communities, and maybe people are sick of me talking about it. But I think that slide that you had in there that illustrates that we bring in less money and we spend less money is something that's important, that if one of our goals, like is stated, is to build confidence and trust, we are doing what we're doing with significantly less money, and we're spending significantly less money. I mean, $1,800, I think, is what, if my memory's right here, for fiscal 24, $1,800 less per student in fiscal 24 than the average school district. The average school district. You've heard my diatribe about my expectations and my hopes for our school district. It's certainly not being average. But I think we're providing a good value. I think the numbers show that, the data show that, and but that's it's something that is worth highlighting and has some sense of concern for me as we think about the future and the opportunities we want. I just had the opportunity today to attend a conference looking at artificial intelligence, and I'll talk more about that later on. But the innovation opportunities that exist around that whole new world, I think, is something that we don't want to be on the bleeding edge. I think Tommy said once, you don't want to be on the bleeding edge of things, but I certainly don't think we want to be in the back of the pack on either. And so just something that I want to be mindful of.
At this point, I'm looking for a motion to approve the FY26 budget.
So moved.
Second by Dave, second by David. Any further discussion?
Is there, when do we have a review of how it's tracking mid-school year or something and make an adjustment, or how?
Yeah, I'll continue to provide monthly financial reports compared to budget. I've already started a revised budget, knowing what the legislative changes are. So this is just one guess at this time of the year.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Budget's approved. Next item on the agenda, Superintendent Gross, approve school board members' right to employment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Statute 123B.195 provides for a school board member to be employed by the school district for a limited amount of pay. In 2022, that number was changed. The current number in 123B is not to exceed $20,000. Obviously, that has to do with public checks and balances. There are some stipulations and requirements. If a board member does seek employment in the school district, and it has to be approved by the majority of the board at a meeting when all board members are present. Ashley Goodman's provided some background and information in the packet, as well as the statute. This isn't new for our school district. We've had this for a number of previous years with the other board members, and it's worked out flawlessly, and I'd recommend approval.
Do I have a motion to approve the right to employment notification?
So moved.
Moved by Melissa, second.
Second, David.
Second, David. Any further discussion? Julie, does this need to be roll call since we're,
It's not required.
okay,
Regular vote is okay.
okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That agenda item is approved. Next item on the agenda, Superintendent Gross, approve the 25-26 Minnesota School Board Association membership.
Thank you. In your packet, you have details of the due structure for this upcoming school year. I think, one of the things to keep in mind, there's no cost for board members to attend the leadership conference from a registration standpoint. So that's all, just one of the values that comes from this. We do use the policy services service of MSBA quite extensively, and have had good value from the organization as well from a lobbying standpoint and others. So I'd recommend approval.
So moved, David.
Moved by David,
Second.
second by Dave. Discussion?
Just one question for myself. How do they structure their, I saw the amount that it didn't cause any concern for me, but more a question for my own information. How do they structure it? Do they charge a flat rate to every school district, or do they look at the school district size and charge different rates to different school districts? How does the MSA, how do they come about that number, I guess? Do you know?
The policy services is a flat rate, and I believe the association dues are based on student numbers. Is that right, Julie, from your recollection?
Yes, that's correct.
And that was actually the lower number, wasn't it?
The policy services is the lower number.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Membership is approved. Renewal is approved. Next item on the agenda, under partnerships, we have quite a few of them here. Superintendent Gross approved the 25-26 Early Edge Agreement.
Early Edge, if you are still making these connections, is the early childhood program formerly known as Invest Early. Jackie Skelly, the executive director from IASC, and Darla Ronnie have done a significant amount of restructuring to that program after the blend grant of 20 years is coming to a close. We offer programming at West Rapids Elementary. We have 3 classrooms there. There's a classroom at Minnesota North as well. Kara talked a little bit about the makeup of that. Our funding is braided there, and what that means is that funds from our school readiness, as well as our early childhood family education, and scholarship dollars, voluntary pre-K dollars, kind of all get put into the middle, and then that is what they use to do programming with. So this services agreement details the services being provided and the manner in which we're compensating IASC for those services.
Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Melissa, second.
Second.
Second by Dave. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The agreement's approved. Next item on the agenda, the PACE programming agreement.
So the PACE Lab is housed in our middle school, and if you haven't had the opportunity to visit it, I'd encourage you to do that. It is a collaborative program. We have students there depending on the semester and kind of time of year from a number of IS school districts. They come and learn work skills, practical skills in a simulated work environment. It's very, very neat, and especially if you can get some students to engage in a dialogue about it. This leads to, further transition for our special education students down the road, and it's a really unique program, really successful, and I'm really grateful that we have it, and I'm especially proud that we're able to host it here. So this is, again, lays out the details of that, and I'd recommend approval.
So moved, David. Moved by David. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Dave. Any further discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Go
just
ahead.
one quick comment that Matt and I had an opportunity to visit the PACE lab at the beginning of my term on the board, and what an incredible facility and opportunity we have to host that for these kids in the transitional environment. It's a wonderful program. Happy to support it.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? PACE programming agreements approved. Next item on the agenda, low incident services agreement. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you. Again, there's a number of these, like you said, Mr. Chair, coming through as we ramp up and get things in place for the fall. IASC hosts a number of low incidence programs, and that for our district and other IS districts, and even outside of there, these are services that most districts don't have enough children to support, like full FTE for, or full staff for, because we may not have a lot of students that need those services. So like hearing, vision, really rare medical potentially, so really highly specialized supports. So rather than us having to hire, employ really part-time people, as we lump all of our students together in the region, in a sense, we can provide licensed staff, qualified staff to those students that have those specific needs. So I tried to detail in there some examples as well in that administrative report. Again, the alternative would be us trying to find very part-time people to provide services that we are obligated to provide. So this is just a really smart, cooperative way to do that. I'd recommend approval.
I have a motion to approve.
So moved, David.
Moved by David, second.
Second.
Melissa. Further discussion?
I think it's brilliant use of shared resources.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Service agreements approved. Next item on the agenda, Career Pathways Programming Agreement, Superintendent Gross.
Many of you, I hope all of you, are aware of the Career Pathways program. I know just a few weeks ago, Scott Patro was here to talk about the program. We had many students complete pathways this last year, 12 in Big Fork, 66 at Grand Rapids High School. And at Big Fork, 145 enrollments in career pathways, and Grand Rapids High School had 238. Another benefit this last year that was kind of rolled out through the community, or the foundation at Minnesota North Itasca. If a student from an IASC school district graduates with a certificate, that certificate's worth $1,000 scholarship at Minnesota North Itasca. So we've been talking for a long time about the importance of that work, but also trying to create something tangible there. So that's something that we have a number of students who will take advantage of this fall. We do contribute to career pathways, and we'll benefit from coordination, liaison with businesses, lining up our signing days. And IASC was recently awarded a grant from the Blandon Foundation as well to expand work-based learning coordination, which is that really important role of connecting kids with employers for those exploring and experiencing career connected activities. So really good program. And I think you've all probably seen seen and heard about that, and I'd recommend approval of this.
Motion to approve.
So moved, David.
David, second.
Second.
Second by Dave. Further discussion?
One last thing I would just mention, this is, generally IASC has had billing that was proportionate to enrollment. And this is an area where our IASC partners have agreed to pick up a little bit more higher proportion of their overall cost, just given the financial situation that we've been in and recognizing the overall cost of the program. From an enrollment perspective, we represent, I think it's 60% of the enrollment in IASC care. Does that sound about right?
58.
50. Did she say 58?
Yeah,
58%, yeah.
you're way off.
That's embarrassing.
What did you teach, Matt?
Plus or minus 2% was the margin of error there. Plus or minus 2%. So just for a frame of reference, yeah.
Okay.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Career Pathways Agreements approved. Next item on the agenda, Student Support Co-op Agreement.
This is kind of an odd one. The legislature approved cooperatives in a broad sense to be able to spend and be reimbursed for student support positions. And the member districts can generate aid to reimburse these co-ops. If the positions aren't in place and the money's not spent, the districts just don't get it. So this isn't a spend that we would, this isn't money that we would get if we didn't have the program in place. We just wouldn't get it. IASC is the cooperative that we're working with, obviously. In some areas of the state, they may be working with their service co-op or some other joint powers affiliate. We've had a lot of conversations at the IASC level about how best to use these funds, and I think this will probably evolve over time. Some of it has to do with access to staff that qualify. We can't just hire anybody. It has to be people with particular licenses and skills and certifications. Right now, I think we're focused on nursing, but we've had conversations about social workers. I think we originally set out to hire social workers to serve in a kind of student family support liaison position, but people with that expertise are hard to come by. So again, this is where this is at. This is a kind of a flow through, I guess is the best way to say it. Flow through funding, but needs our approval.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Melissa, second.
Second, David.
Second, David. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Agreement's approved. Next item on the agenda, Technology Service Agreement, Superintendent Gross.
For the last few years, this is kind of part of some restructuring and I think budget activity and reduction cost savings moves. Our district sells part of our technology director's time to IASC. And so it's bundled in a technology services agreement. That's what this contract essentially represents, that we're selling some of our technology staff or services to IASC to provide support for their IASC network, first of all, and then also IASC staff. So our staff support not only the infrastructure piece, but also people like, like I mentioned, our executive director, Jackie Scully, Scott Patro, those IASC employees get support technology-wise from staff that we're selling. So financially, this works out well for us. I'd recommend approval.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Dave, second.
Second.
Second by Melissa. Discussion.
I guess I have one question here. do we feel we're getting adequately reimbursed for this? I know we've had some turnover in our staff there, and I know there's been some work level concerns, has been my understanding, and in some of the feedback potentially there, and maybe I'm expressing that wrong, but I want to make sure that, that we're getting what we need out of this, because I think we have stress level there for some of our existing staff, and throwing that workload on them, are we getting compensated correctly, I guess, ultimately, right? Or
Yeah, I
is there
guess-
concern about that stress level for that staffing, I guess?
Yeah, I definitely think there is, even in the budget reduction process, I think I shared, our technology staff in general has been cut more as a proportion than most of our other departments. And, we run really lean there. I think it's useful that our staff are involved in the IAS core work. If for no other reason than it's housed in our building. So the IAS infrastructure that we're talking about is in the Grand Rapids High School building. Some of it's, really intricately connected to that building, obviously, but, backup generator and that kind of thing. So it makes sense that we're involved. I think that part of that question could evolve, Tom, with services moving forward that we're providing. I don't know that how we've assigned duties to support some of the IASC work. I wonder if how we assign duties to support IASC work could be looked at differently. I think that maybe is the first place we have to look, to try to make that more manageable.
Do I have a motion to approve the agreement?
I thought we had a
Yeah, I think we did.
Yeah,
That
we
was
had
an
a
extra
second.
discussion.
Okay.
Yeah,
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Service agreements approved. Next item on the agenda, approved sale of deaf and hard of hearing services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, I'd say the next 3 of these contracts represent more agreements with IASC specific to special education. Anna did a good job laying out information in the board report. Again, they represent, in the first case, deaf, hard of hearing positions that we would, if we weren't collaborating with IASC, both organizations would be out looking for a half-time person, which is really, really tough to do. So this enables us to employ somebody full-time. I don't remember if we've said this before, but our child count from a special ed standpoint and IASC's child count from a special ed standpoint are about equivalent. So it kind of makes really good sense to arrange this in a half and half way. It's been working really, really well. And so I'd recommend continuing with the next 3, G, H, and I, for all the same rationale.
Mr. Chair, can I make a motion on all 3?
Yes.
David so moves on hard of hearing, autism, and physical impairment services.
Do I have a second on those 3?
Second.
Second from Dave. Any further discussion?
Really wise collaboration.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Those 3 agenda items are approved. Next item on the agenda, approve the contract with North Homes for school-based mental health services.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As many of you know, mental health services are provided in our schools through a partnership with North Homes. These services are provided by North Homes. They do billing on their end, and that enables those services to be provided with little to no cost to our school district. They also solicit grants because sometimes there are gaps between insurance coverage and the cost of providing services. We've been through a number of RFPs. The initial RFP dating back a number of years. There were a couple of respondents. This was before my time. North Homes came through that process as the provider of choice. Subsequent RFP was done. At that point, they were the only provider that responded, and our contract provides for us to be able to renew with them, which is what we're proposing at this time. So the agreement represents a renewal of a contract with North Homes for the upcoming contract period through June of 2028.
Motion to approve.
So moved.
Moved by Dave, second.
Second.
Second by Melissa. Further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Contract with North Homes approved. Board reports. Ashley, do we want to start with you?
Mr. Chair, actually, I don't have anything to report to the board. I was absent for my policy committee meeting at a child's doctor's appointment, so that would have been it for me. So you apologize.
Thank you, Melissa.
Yeah, policy meeting as Ashley put forward, it was pretty short. It was one of the shortest policy meetings we've had, which a lot of people are super happy about that. I still love policy. So there'll be more on that. The big one for me is we've been in contract negotiations with IASC. And for those of you who don't know, last week, I don't remember what day is it. About a week ago, Jackie Skelly submitted her resignation. Huge. I can't tell you what a huge loss that is. She's really our first executive director for that. And she has done so much work to bring IASC in line contract-wise, policy-wise, and all the work that she's had to do with losing the Blandon grant and restructuring Early Edge. And I just can't even tell you what a unicorn she's been, partially too because she has a special ed license. So the way that that's structured is IASC could get reimbursed for her salary because the majority of her work would fall, or at least partially because the majority of her work would fall under that SPED category. So can we get another unicorn? I don't know, but we're going to try. So we're re-looking at the job description because when we originally posted that job description, SPED wasn't part of it. Jackie just happened to apply. She happened to be a great leader and she was already in SPED in IASC. So it wasn't like she was she kind of took her duties with her as she went to this next level. So someone coming in would have to learn both sides. So we're going to try that first. If we can't find someone and we're okay with saying we don't have the right person, then we will go back to the drawing board and take a look at that job description and see how best to structure that. But this could take a while. So there is going to be an interim SPED director and so look for that. But we do need somebody as of July 1st on record as the lead for SPED. And so we will bring an interim person on board. And part of that thinking was, although we have someone in IASC with a SPED license, they have a full-time job and because Jackie's going to be gone, they're going to have to keep things moving. And so we're bringing in someone for just a short period of time to deal with anything that might arise. And I say interim, like nothing's going to arise. And Matt is probably like, oh God, like as soon as somebody comes in, something can happen. so this person will be compensated and they will have some help from 318 to if there's anything that shows up. Anna, who is our other unicorn, will be helping, and there will be some compensation there from the IASC group. But this is a big deal, and something that we didn't see coming. But Jackie is actually leaving the state. She's moving on to bigger and better things, and I don't like to say that because I hate losing her, but she will be wonderful as a leader in another position. So that's a big one for us. We've been dealing with that a lot over the last 6 days, 6-7 days. And contract negotiations for them are ongoing. So we do have leadership contracts and teacher contracts that are going right now. So,
Dave?
Just a couple things. Happy to report the ed policy bill passed last week on a party line I'll mention. I would also share that I had some social media interaction with some members of the public about our new logo. So I would just recommend that whenever we can, just to share a little bit more of the details of our logo. I think it's awesome. I love everything about it. I just think we need to communicate it. I was playing offense and defense at the same time. And then there's a RIFE meeting tomorrow at noon that I'll attend. That's all I have.
David?
Yeah, as Ashley and Melissa pointed out, policy is always fun. One of our favorites.
I love policy.
The Minnesota School Board Association had a Zoom meeting last week at the end of session to kind of bring all the threads together of what passed and what didn't pass. If anyone's not had the chance to see it, they do record these. It's extremely informative. It's exactly an hour long. And you can get it on the MSBA website. Very informative. And on June 9th, Matt went to the Itasca County Township Association and made a presentation about schools, budgets, plans, and was able to answer a tremendous number of questions. And Matt makes a very impressive presentation. We need, if anyone has any contacts to get Matt out. Sorry, Matt, I'm putting words on your work on your load.
Filling up my calendar, that's good.
If anybody has any places, he is an extremely fluent spokesperson for what we need happening at the school.
Tom?
Yeah. So I was actually, last week, we had at my place of employment bar, we had some Minnesota North and Upward Bound students that came from 318 and some of the surrounding districts and came and learned about engineering. So I poked my nose in there and saw what was going on and got to participate in that a little bit. Tomorrow I'll be up here again in Big Fork, and we're going to have our advisory committee meeting. So that's all I have.
I'll be here for the advisory meeting as well, and I'm so glad we have policy people on the board. Superintendent Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I mentioned a little bit earlier my quick down and back to St. Cloud. A number of school districts and organizations have formed an alliance to look at AI in education, and it was a really good day, eye-opening in many ways. And we're going to be gathering some staff in 3 weeks here in this room, actually where I am, to talk about what that looks like in our school district. It's happening right now. Our kids are using AI in their classrooms. One of the statistics that they showed today at the keynote had to do with I can't remember the sample, but it was a pretty large group of students, and they asked them if they were using AI in their classrooms on assignments, and 60% said no, 40% said yes, and then they asked the 40% of kids, does your teacher know that you're using it? And of that 40% that were using AI, like 44% said, yeah, my teacher knows. And 44% said, no, they don't know. And 12% said, I don't know if they know or not. The point is, I think that it's here. This reminds me and also dates me of when the internet became a thing, and there was this, what are we going to do now that kids can access all of the world's information on Google? It reminds me of that, except it's amplified and probably exponential just because of the capabilities of AI. And one of the things they were talking about today had to do with the workforce, and some of the people there were from DEED and other workforce development, and they said that their estimates now are that 30% of the jobs will be affected or will have an AI component to them in the near future. And but one of the comments that quote that was shared was that AI isn't going to replace people necessarily, but people who use AI will replace people that don't use AI. So interesting to think about whether you agree with or disagree with any of that. But the reality is that we're in a position as a school district, like others, where we have to look at it, figure out what we're going to do with this. How do we use this in the smartest, safest way we can? I think that the concerns that were raised by even AI proponents center around student data, ensuring that student data is protected. And so we'll have that as part of our work too and considerations. But again, we have a group of people coming in on the 8th, teachers from all buildings and grade levels and principals, and to get started on a plan here, and that'll come back to you to review. And my plan is to get our student school board reps involved in that dialogue. It'll be a good opportunity for them to weigh in, I think, and probably also our student leadership groups in our buildings. So more to come on that, but it's interesting. Let's see, David mentioned the township meeting. Dave mentioned the legislation. I think in general, it could have been worse, could have been better. A lot of what they did to help us was really a short-term or 1 or maybe 2-year help, and then we'll be right back wondering where, what we're going to do. A lot of work around staffing. We have a few pieces to finish up, a couple hires to take care of still, so we're all set for the fall. You saw in the consent agenda, Gage Fisher stepping into the technology director role. So you'll probably see he starts tomorrow, actually. And so he's going to be drinking from a fire hose this week, meeting the team and learning all the things. And then we had kind of a wrap up for principals last week, and kind of set the stage for the summer and looking ahead for the year. And then also met with our strategy team last week to start mapping out or continue mapping out our early out times and professional development next year. So that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. A reminder, upcoming school board committee meeting dates are posted on each agenda. School board meeting agendas can be found in the district website and on the designated posting site at the ISD 318 Ed Services Center. Is there any other business to come before the board? Julie, has anyone signed up for public input?
They have not.
Meeting's adjourned.